Hi everyone, welcome. Are you applying to medical school this application cycle? If so, stay tuned. We have some really great tips to make sure your secondary essays stand out. We just have TikTok and YouTube here right now, so be patient with us as we wait for our Instagram streamers to join us. Once we are all here and ready, we will get started. All right, Instagram is here. Welcome, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok viewers. Are you applying for medical school this application cycle? If yes, make sure to stick around and we will give you some really great strategies to make sure your secondary essays stand out. My name is Brittany. I'm an admissions expert, and I am joined by my lovely co-host today, Chris. Chris, can you introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Brittany. I'm Chris Zeiss, and I'm the former Director of Operations for Stanford Medicine, and I have over 20 years of experience in admissions.
Excellent. Great to have you, Chris. As a few more people continue to join the stream, I just want to point out that we will be giving a lot of information to you today. And to get the most out of it, I want to kindly ask you to give me your full attention. I know that's not always easy to ask, as some of you are likely on your phone or your tablet, and it's easy to scroll past. Either way, let's make sure to lock in for the next little while so we can get you some great tips and strategies for your secondary essays.
Right, for sure, because our goal here today is to help your secondary essays stand out in comparison to the thousands of other students that might be applying for medical school this cycle.
Excellent. Yes, exactly. So the chat is open. Send in your questions. We'll be answering them throughout the stream or at the Q&A portion at the end. So before we begin, I have a couple important questions for you all. Are you serious about making your application stand out and getting into medical school? Are you serious about changing your future and making a positive contribution? Are you willing to do whatever it takes? And finally, are you ready to invest in yourself? If you answered yes to any and all of those questions, you are in the right place because we are just as serious about us helping you. While there are several components that go into crafting a stellar medical school application, today we will be focusing primarily on secondary essays. It's that time of year, and a lot of students struggle with this. Secondary essays are sent out to medical schools that you sent your primary application to and can be on a range of topics. Chris, can you go over the purpose of these essays so students can understand what admissions officers are looking for when they read them?
Absolutely. So they've seen your primary application, they've seen your grades and your schools and where you've gone to. And so the 5 major things that we as admissions officers are evaluating when we're reading your secondary essay are: do you convey maturity and professionalism in your essay? Do you have excellent communication skills? Do you have the essential qualities that we're looking for and that are backed with evidence? How do you fit the specific school's mission statement and expectations? And most importantly, how do you stand out from the thousands of other applicants that we're also reviewing?
Excellent. Thanks for going over that, Chris. Now that you guys have an understanding of the purpose of these essays, I'm sure there are probably several other critical errors that students may make when tackling their secondary essays that could potentially lead to their application getting rejected. I know myself, I've come across a few while reviewing some secondary essays, but Chris, can you go over some of the most common ones that you noticed during your time as an admissions officer?
Absolutely. So I would have to say the number one error that students make in applying is starting too late. So you have rolling admissions for the most part in medical schools, and many students underestimate the amount of time that's going to be required. So you should start now, because it's usually best to submit your secondary essay within 2 weeks of receipt of them from the school. There's going to be a deadline, and so you don't want to miss that deadline. So I would say preparing now is the best way to go. And then also I've seen students that may include inappropriate examples as evidence. So you want to make sure that you're referencing the core competencies that you have and that you're also tailoring your essay to the school's mission statement that you're applying to. And then not addressing the question that's being asked. Make sure that you're following all of the instructions for any application essays, or just for your application in general. If you make mistakes, it's just going to show the admissions committee that you don't pay attention, or you don't have attention to detail, or you're following instructions. So even if you have a strong application, it could be detrimental to your admissions if you make simple mistakes on your application of your essays. And then poorly written essays. So I would say, again, time is your friend. You want to start and write them as early as you get them. And it's better to have a second or even a third set of eyes to look over your essays before you submit them, because you want to make sure that any grammatical errors are caught or anything like that. And getting a second and third opinion will help you with that. And you want to make sure and revise, revise, and revise again until you get that perfect essay.
Excellent. And we actually just got a question from YouTube that kind of goes in succession with your second point. And the question is, should I connect every response to the school's mission statement? I know several schools send out several essay prompts, so we just want to check, Chris, would you recommend every single response relating back to the school's mission statement?
Not every single response. I mean, I think you want to pick the ones that you can answer most strongly and those that you can show evidence for. That's probably the best way to go on that.
Excellent. And yeah, I figure as well, like you don't necessarily have to include the school's mission statement in every single response, but be aware of it. So at least you know what traits and skills and qualities that they're looking for. Keeping that in mind can really help, strengthen that essay.
Yeah, definitely do your homework.
Yes, exactly. So now that we know the purpose behind those essays and how to avoid those common errors, can you go through some strategies that we recommend for writing a killer secondary essay for medical school?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm going to be kind of repeating myself here, but it's very, very important that you follow the instructions, as I mentioned. You would think that this is an obvious suggestion, but you'd be surprised how many essays that we've seen that maybe don't address the question that's being asked. And also be aware that if you don't follow the instructions and you make errors, that even if you have a strong essay and it doesn't hit all the points of the prompt or the question, then you're just showing the admissions committee that you don't have attention to detail and you weren't really reading the question that was being asked. And additionally, you want to make sure that if there's a word or character limit, that you're going to abide by that while you're answering that question. And you can, I said conveying maturity and professionalism, so you can do this by, for one thing, sharing a pivotal personal experience that maybe you navigated and it showed that you had self-reflection, perseverance, personal development, and also maybe some deliberate planning and leadership involvement, showcasing those and providing a well-defined roadmap for your future is going to help the admissions committee to see your professionalism and maturity. And then you want to include those personal experiences because that's going to be your evidence, right? You're mentioning some skills and traits that you have that you feel are going to be strong and helpful in the school that you're wanting to attend. How do you do that? By showing the experiences that gave you those skills and traits. And make sure that it's original and based on something that you actually experienced. And then also make sure that your essay is grammatically and structurally good and that it has a good flow. You want your essay to be polished because it's going to demonstrate that you have an ability to communicate effectively if you have a polished essay, right? And by a polished essay, that means organizing your thoughts logically, using paragraphs to separate different ideas or different stages of your story. And again, paying close attention to that grammar and spelling, punctuations. The errors are only going to distract from your message and not give the admissions committee a good measure of your attention to detail. And again, I mentioned before, you want it to flow smoothly from one point to the next, right? You want it to read well. You want to have a guide to help the reader make it through your essay, and you want to make it more enjoyable for them to read. They're reading a lot of essays, so if you can make it an enjoyable read, that's gonna help them, and it's gonna help you. And then to do that, how do you get someone to pay attention, right? You want to include a captivating opening sentence. You want to draw the reader in. You want the admissions officer to say, wow, I really want to read about this person. I want to keep reading about it. Remember, they're reading hundreds, maybe thousands of secondary essays, so you don't want them to be bored. And then you also want to leave them wanting more. So with your closing sentence, you want them to say, wow, I really want to learn more about this student. So let's invite them for an interview so that they can learn more about you in the interview, because they've learned so much, enough about you during the essay, that they want to find out more.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Those are some really great tips. Just to piggyback off that one point about structure, as many know, every essay should be structured like an academic essay. And this means that it needs a clear introduction, body, and conclusion. Now, we do know that the word count or character count for secondary essays is typically significantly shorter than your personal statement. So although you may not have different paragraphs for each section, you don't want to simply throw all aspects of that essay structure to the wind. Once you have that captivating opening sentence that Chris mentioned, as you move into the core of your essay, you really want to draw upon those personal experiences to provide that evidence. Again, anyone can say that, they gained a certain skill set during a particular experience, but backing it up with a specific instance to actually show the admissions officer that you gained these skills will really show them that you are a good fit for their program. We'll go into this a little bit later with some concrete examples, but just note that you always want to back it up with evidence. As well, with every essay, you'll hear this over and over from us, but quality over quantity. So don't use your secondary essays as a chance to restate your entire resume or try to fit in any and every experience that maybe you couldn't include in your personal statement. If you don't have the room to expand on why each experience was important, the reviewer will gain no new insights about your life, personality, skills, or motivation. Therefore, as in most cases, less is more. Getting into the conclusion, you want that final sentence to kind of leave that lasting impact and get them to want you to get into the interview room. So make sure it's insightful, captivating, and leave the reader wanting more. So these tips, as you can probably tell, are pretty generalized for any essay. The goal of this stream is to make sure you have specific tips for your secondary essay prompts. So Chris, what would you say are the most common prompts or themes that we see in those secondary essays?
Sure. So one, they're going to want to see that you did your homework. We mentioned this, right? Research the school that you're applying to. They're going to ask you, like, why this school or this program. You don't want to just be generalized about it. You want to show that you've looked at their program, the kinds of things that they offer and how that's going to suit you and how you're going to fit in there. There may be another essay about cultural competency and diversity, maybe one about overcoming challenges and failures. Also, what are your future goals outside just pursuing a medical degree? Show them, what are you going to do with your medical degree? You're applying to medical school. They want to know why and what you plan to do with that. What is your passion for it? And then perhaps they'll ask about any academic lapses or gaps that you show on your transcripts.
Excellent. Okay, so on that note, before we jump into some specific tips on how to address those ones, I just want to comment on a question that came in the chat from YouTube. And the question is, how many experiences do you recommend per essay? So this is solely dependent on how much room you have. From what I've seen from the character and word count for secondary essays, 1 to 2 is probably your best bet. So quality over quantity always. Again, the goal is to have enough room to discuss the experience itself, what you learn from it, and how those skills and insights will be valuable to you in medical school and beyond as a physician. If you have a limited character or word count, maybe that leads to just including 1 experience. If you have the room, maybe 2 to really solidify that evidence. But either way, quality over quantity. If you are able to really expand on 1 particular experience and show how meaningful it is, that's going to look much better to an admissions officer than 3 or 4 experiences where you don't really get the room to talk about those insights and those takeaways. So hopefully that answers your question.
And definitely, just to add to that, I would say no more than 3. For sure, no more than 3. You want them to be compelling and interesting, and you don't just want like a bullet list, right? You want, like you said, you want it to be detailed and show why it matters.
Exactly. Yes. The goal here is, of course, to captivate them and not put them to sleep. So making sure quality over quantity once you get them captivated with that opening sentence. So we'll jump into the tips about those prompts. So Chris just went over before we went through that question, the 5 most common essay prompts or themes that we see. So let's help out everyone struggling to answer these different prompts. They can be quite challenging. So can you give us some tips for answering that ever common why our school or why our program question?
Yeah, so you want to share what you feel sets this particular school apart from other medical schools and programs. Identify what's unique or enticing about their campus or program, their values, their cultures. How are you going to fit into that? Make sure you tell them what you know about the school and what specifically makes it appealing to you. Um, I mean, stroke their egos, right? Let them know that you're applying to their school because you think it's one of the best, and this is why. And you've done your homework, and you feel like, yeah, you wanna join them. When you're talking about their school, the unique programs and opportunities, make sure that you focus on what's going to appeal to you about the school, but also what gives the school its reputation, what makes it unique. Talk about the school's programs and opportunities in your essay. You want to talk about the curriculum, their faculty, and what makes this medical school different from others in your area or region. And also express interest that goes beyond education. So, for example, if the school has an excellent reputation for research or focuses on a specialty area that not many schools do, then talk about why that's important to you and what your future's goals are for that. Don't just simply focus on the end result that is becoming a practicing medical professional. Talk about how the school can help you. You know you want to be a medical professional because you're applying to medical school. So talk about how the school can help you accomplish your personal goals, your professional goals, and you're going to have to do that extensive research and organize your thoughts. But you want to make sure that your answer is brief, but it's very detailed and shows that you've done your homework.
Excellent. Yeah. And on that note of stroking their ego, you definitely want to make sure you're reiterating why they're your top choice. The admissions officer isn't going to read and really resonate with something like, well, you're one of the many schools that I applied to that, had X, or that I enjoyed this aspect of the program. Again, stroke their egos, let them know that they are your top choice, and remember to reiterate those reasons. On top of that, try to use your personal experience to show the admissions officer how you complement their program or culture as well. Okay, so all of that should help you tackle those why this program or why this school. That is probably one of the most common ones that I've seen personally. On the other end, what about those diversity essays? I know some people may struggle with tackling those. So Chris, can you give us some tips on how to go about tackling those cultural competence or diversity prompts?
Absolutely. So if you are asked in an essay about that's related to diversity, diversity or cultural competence, and you want to show how will you serve these people of different racial, cultural, socioeconomic, sexual orientation, political views, educational backgrounds, any of those variables. You want to use past experiences with those diverse backgrounds as evidence. You want to demonstrate that you're able to help someone whose background is vastly different from yours. If you're in a minority group, you want to highlight that and show how that has helped you to focus on this. If you are from a majority group, then explain how you've learned from others with diverse backgrounds. That's going to help add to your character and show why you're interested in those types of things.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you so much. I know that's one of the more difficult ones, especially for those who maybe are from a majority group or maybe don't have a significant amount of experience. So, using those tips, you can definitely help tackle those ever common diversity or cultural competence essays. Now, what about when a school asks about a student's future plans? Sometimes these prompts can be very vague, simply, what are your future plans? So can you help us out when we come across such prompts?
Yeah, I think an essay is compelling if the student talks about what's their 5 to 10 year plan. Outside of simply looking at a medical school and being a practicing physician, you want to let them know your future, what you want to use the important aspects of the school that you're applying to help you meet the goals. And then you don't want to just talk about, I want to be a doctor, because you're applying to medical school. That's obvious. You want to talk about maybe you're interested in a specialty for some reason, and that's why you're focused on that specific school because they have a really good program in it, or they have a really good research program that you've been following, and you're interested in working with a specific faculty member. Again, stroking the ego can definitely help you get an interest from the people that are reading your essays. Show what motivates you to pursue medicine. So again, you're always going to want to back it up with evidence and personal experiences. Talk about volunteering experiences that maybe you had, or maybe a family health crisis that you were involved in. Always back things up with the evidence and what personal experiences you bring to the table. And you want to mention your long-term goals and how not only a medical education, but a medical education from that specific school or program is going to help you reach those long-term goals.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah, all very important tips, and making sure that you're including all of those. And of course, biggest thing is always back it up with that evidence. Finally, what about an essay that asks you to talk about failure or academic lapses? I know talking about the dreaded failure word can be a little bit difficult and maybe a little bit tough to walk through. So what would you suggest for these types of essay prompts, Chris?
Absolutely. Number one, and first and foremost, always be honest. I mean, you're not going to be able to sneak it past the admissions officers. They're going to see your transcripts. They're going to see any failures you've had in grades or struggles that you've had with research projects. Any of that stuff that you're including in your application is going to be available to them. So make sure that you're honest about what happened, and tell them about why. Take full responsibility. Don't offer excuses. Make sure that you just explain what happened. Maybe you had a health problem. Maybe you needed to take time off for financial reasons. Maybe you had a family crisis that happened and you struggled with grades for a semester. As long as you can show how you overcame that challenge and what you learned from that, and how you can use that experience so that you can show that you're going to be very focused when you get to medical school, that's going to help the admissions committee way more than you trying to not talk about it or just pretend like it didn't happen.
Excellent. Yeah. So lots of tips here to help you tackle those secondary essays. For me personally, I find it's a little bit better to contextualize that advice when put into practice. So we do have an example of a secondary essay today. It's short, don't worry, regarding academic lapses. So this prompt is specifically asking the student if they took a gap year, and if so, why that was. So Chris, are you able to read us this sample response?
Sure. So it says, I threw myself into the medical school application process during my final year of my undergrad degree. Realizing that my application was lacking, I have spent the time since graduation gaining volunteer and leadership experience, improving my MCAT scores, and taking science prerequisite courses. Taking post-baccalaureate classes proved advantageous. I was thrilled when my MCAT score improved significantly, going from 505 to 517. My score was a testament to the hard work and dedication I put into my organic chemistry and molecular biology courses, and to the time management, accountability, and work ethic I refined in studying for the MCAT. While pursuing post-baccalaureate science courses improved my academics, volunteering at a seniors care center has opened my eyes to the issues facing seniors and those who care for them. Once, upon entering the facility, I heard a patient calling for help. He had fallen and could not get back into his wheelchair. Per volunteer protocol, I cannot physically assist the residents into their chairs. However, after determining that he was not physically hurt, I calmly reassured him that I was getting help and informed the nurses of the situation. This incident and other experiences at the center allowed me to develop and practice skills such as enforcing appropriate boundaries, working with others, and handling unexpected and stressful circumstances with poise. From my various experiences, I have developed and refined my belief system and skill set. I've developed a greater sensitivity to those facing physical or mental limitations and a dedication to serving my community and overcoming such challenges. I've learned the value of being empathetic and showing compassion in the process. I've developed the critical traits and values that I'm certain this school would be proud of. whether as a student or as a physician.
Excellent. So very clear that the student took our advice. They were honest about their situation. They did not make any excuses for their, low MCAT score, maybe their low GPA, and they used it all as a learning opportunity. Not only, they used experiences that they were involved with during their gap year, and again showed how those experiences using a particular instance as evidence to show the admissions officers that are reading their essay that they would make a really great fit for that program. It has great structure, no grammar or typing errors. You can't see it on your end, but I promise you it was definitely revised. So very clear that this was a successful applicant. So hopefully now that you guys get some context, you're able to tackle those secondary essays with ease. As we wrap up today's live stream, I really want to encourage each of you to take action today. I'm sure because you're here, it means you have some questions about the secondary essay application process, or you're just hoping to get some tips to refine it. Either way, you're going to love what we have in store for you next, which is BMO's application review program. This is the #1 way to ensure that you submit killer secondary essays and get you in that interview room. When you work with us, you'll get access to experts with years of proven experience who will help you generate unique ideas based on your own life. You'll also get unlimited reviews of your documents with expert feedback 100% of the time. Remember earlier when Chris said to revise, revise, revise? That is where we come in. Our expert feedback will make sure that you are 100% ready to submit those essays to your school of choice. So, how do you take action and make your dreams of acceptance come true? Schedule your free initial consultation now at bmofreeconsult.com. During the call, we'll make sure to go over our programs, address your questions, and most importantly, create a personal plan of action for you. So while you're scheduling that free consultation, let's go over some common questions that we see when discussing secondary essays. So the first one, Chris, some of my secondary essay prompts are optional. Should I include something in this section?
Again, quality over quantity. Just including it for the sake of including it, no. If you have an additional high quality experience that you didn't have room for with the regular prompt, then certainly this is an opportunity for you to use that space if you feel that it's going to be compelling or help add to your application.
Excellent. Perfect. Yeah, very common theme here, quality over quantity. Another one, and I see this quite a bit as well, can I use the same answer for more than one program? So obviously most people aren't just applying to one med school and putting all their eggs in one basket, and a lot of secondary prompts tend to repeat themselves. So can you use the same answer for more than one program?
Yes, you can. I would say absolutely, but here's an error that I've definitely seen in my time. Don't just copy and paste, because I've seen it where somebody uses the essay and they mention the wrong school in that essay because they just copy and pasted and used it for another application. That's going to be a clear red flag that you didn't do any extra work. You just copy and pasted something that you've already written. It's also going to be a clear indication that you're applying to multiple schools, and maybe you saying that you're the best school, but you're mentioning the wrong name is not really going to go over well with the admissions committee. So you can certainly use them. Just make sure that you edit and revise it to be specific to the school that you're applying to. Also, their mission statements could be different, all that stuff. So you want to make sure that you're revising it and not just a copy and paste.
Excellent. Yeah, really great point. I've actually come across a few of those during my time revising essays. Thankfully, they were using our review program and I was able to catch it for them. But yeah, very clear that copy and pasting was used. So making sure that you are definitely tailoring that to each school. And finally, and this one is pretty common as well. Can I reuse an experience that I mentioned in my personal statement or my sketch?
Yes, I think you can if you're going to elaborate more, right? Maybe you didn't have room in your personal statement to put all the detail that you wanted to about that experience. But again, quality over quantity. Like, unless you're going to elaborate, add this additional details, if you're just going to say the same thing that you said in your personal statement, then it's not really going to add anything to your application.
Absolutely. Excellent. All right, awesome. That's all the questions we have for today, guys. And thank you to those who sent in their questions in the chat. We really appreciate you joining today. I hope you had as much fun as we did, helping you get through your secondary essays. We know this can be a pretty stressful time of year, so hopefully those tips will help you tackle those with ease. As we leave today, I just want to remind you, as always, believe, become, and be more. See you guys next time.